To Germany now, where they've just had their federal election, and tell you, it's a meal over there. They've got 630 people in their Bundestag, which is their federal parliament. So unlike us, we've just got 151 in the House of Reps, 76 in the Senate. These guys, there's a lot going on. But as we knew would happen, the Conservatives have come out massively on top. The Christian Democrats have gotten almost 30% of the vote. But here's the thing, they don't have enough to majority rule. They've got to now cobble together a coalition in order to rule. So you'd ask yourself, okay, what seems like the best thing to do at the moment? The former ruling party, the SPD, they won by such a landslide. They posted their worst result since World War II. Talk about a historical defeat. You've gone from being the ruling party to losing so badly, they are now in tatters. So you'd think that the now ruling party, the CDU, would go, well, who came second? They seem like the best bet to form a coalition with and now rule and reign in Germany. Who came second was the AfD with about 20% of the vote. Now, together, they would form a very comprehensive parliament. And while the CDU is centre-right and the AfD is considered far-right, I just say they're legends, but it's a matter of opinion, the CDU is refusing. They said they will form a coalition with the party who literally just lost by a landslide before they even consider partnering up with the AfD. What a slap in the face to the German people. So the ruling party that has just been tossed out the window posted their worst result since World War II. They have just been tossed out so comprehensively. And now the guys that did get up with almost 30% of the vote are saying, we're going to pony up with these guys? I mean, Germans must have their head in their hands right now. This election had 84% participation rate. They don't have mandatory voting over there. 84% participation rate, which is the highest since 1990, which was the reunification of Germany. So everyone was like, let's get on board, let's get to the ballot box. Germans want to see drastic change in their country, most noticeably on immigration. That's no secret. And the CDU, prior to this election, were trying to tighten up the immigration laws, but they got nuked by the SPD and the Greens. So now they're in power and they're like, we're going to team up with the SPD. I would be screaming my lungs out if I was German right now.
Well, it's amazing how the AfD, that's the Alternative for Germany, have been characterised as far-right when really their key policies, are they not? They want to be free of the European Union,
yes,
so Germans can run their own country rather than be told by Brussels what to do. And they want to crack down on illegal immigration and particularly asylum seekers who are in Germany committing crimes. They have stabbings almost every week. There's been terrorism recently and that's not an uncommon thing now. Those wouldn't seem to be far-right policies. And for people to say, well, you know, Germany's moved far right, I would argue, no, German leaders have moved away from representing Germans and Germans simply want their country back. If that's far right, I think a lot of people, not just in Germany, but in Western countries right around the world, would consider themselves far right.
We heard the same in the Netherlands, Caleb, when people were voting for Geert Wilders. We heard the same in France when they were voting for Le Pen. Oh, they're far right, absolute, like, oh, disgusting. It's an utter nonsense.
Well, Olaf Scholz, who is currently the Chancellor, and Liz was just telling you about how well he did last time and how badly he did this time, he's put it quite succinctly. Before I carry on, take a look at this.
The last time the election result was better, and I was partly responsible for that. And this time, the result is bad, and I'm responsible for that as well. And I want to say that, but what's important for me to say from this position is to congratulate the CDU-CSU and their Chancellor candidate, Friedrich Merz, and congratulations on your election result.
And he mentions Merz there. He is saying we've won this election.
We have won this election. I'd also like to say a word of respect for our political opponents. Yes, the electoral campaign has been hard. It's been necessary when it came to debates to really focus upon the many important issues facing us, the economy, foreign security policy, migration, internal security. But now we're going to speak to each other. And as soon as possible, we need to get a viable government together.
Now, as for why the CDU wouldn't join up with the AFD, I think it's got a bit of the whiffs of what may well happen in the UK between the Tories and Reform about it, where existing political powers don't want to cede ground to a rising rebel power that could well come in and take their power away from them. So they say, OK, well, instead of letting them in, what we'll do is actually marry up with who are essentially our ideological enemies in order to protect ourselves. Why would you not say, OK, these are the people who perhaps we don't agree with them 100%, but we agree with them a lot more than we agree with this mob over here. And sure, they're rebels and they've come through and they've taken ground from the rest of us, whatever. But that's where the future's going. And it's all good and well to say, OK, well, we're not going to do it this time or form a government with someone else. But I think in the long term, you'll be punished for that in the same way that if the Tories don't wake up to themselves and go, OK, if we are in union with the Reform Party, we've got a much better chance of A, continuing to exist and B, creating a government that can defeat Labor in the UK. Surely that is a good thing. Why would the CDU not go, well, let's join up with closer ideological mates to achieve better ends for our country?
And it's so short-sighted because, and the same will happen if the Tories don't come to their senses in the UK, is because in 3 short years, the AFD have doubled their share of the vote. They went from 10% to 20% because people can see the decline of Germany at a rate of knots, and they want these people, though they're smeared as radicals, to turn the country around. Now you've got the CDU who is slapping them in the face. Should they just pony up with their SPD? People are going to get more of the same, OK? Yeah. And so by the next federal election in Germany, as the AFD have already tweeted, because the writing's on the wall, you won't partner with us come the next federal election. We are going to wipe the floor with you, as we did at the state elections, which is why Chancellor Scholz, Chancellor no more, called this snap election. He put up a vote of confidence knowing it would lose in order to call this snap election. That's how bad things had gotten. His own party had fallen together. The coalition that he had put together had fallen apart, and he was left with no option but to basically put up a motion of no confidence in himself, called this snap election. So the AFD, noting how well they've done in the polls and seeing the writing on the wall in the state election, which is what caused this kerfuffle in the first place, are just saying, fine, you don't pony up with us, you wait. Come the next federal election, Germany will be begging for us and we will answer the call.
Well, the other interesting thing about this is the Christian Democrats who've won the election with 29%. But I believe that's the first time they've ever got less than 30%. So they've won the election, but they're winning with a declining primary vote. And maybe the reason is because they're considering partnering with the Socialist Party, who were just voted out, which is this conservative light that people around the Western world are so frustrated with. To your point, in the UK, that's exactly the problem with the Tories, that they were conservative light. In Australia, we're going to have the same issue. And if you don't want far-right parties, well, then take care of things like sovereign borders, take care of things like listening to the will of the people rather than trying to please globalists. It's not difficult to head off the far right if you simply look after your constituency. Governments haven't been doing that. And one final point, the AFD, you said they doubled their vote in just 3 years. Absolutely true. But I mean, they only began in 2013. Yeah. So in 12 years, they've gone from not existing to having 20% of the primary vote. shows just how much anger there is in countries like Germany about what's been allowed to happen under left-wing progressive governments.
And it's anger at the people who've allowed that to happen for
Yeah.
years and years and years and years and years. It's the same reason that Albanese, his government, was elected with the lowest ever primary vote for a government in Australia, because there is declining confidence in those major parties because people can see in front of them what's happened to them. But I've got to say, how good is the German language? Like, I love that their parliament is the Bundestag. I mean, you know, where else in the world do you get the kind of language you get out of the Germans?
But were
right?
those two guys the least charismatic
I know.
politicians you've ever seen in your
where
life?
was the German chutzpah you normally get out of them? You know, better get up and go. And it's such a violent language in so many ways. You would have thought perfect for being a politician.
Yeah, having that calm interpreter over the top really steals from it.
Make it look like you've got some passion when you're just saying, well, I went down to the shops today.